Welcome to the morning call for Wednesday, the 4th of February. And we start really looking just here. Bitcoin still testing those new lows, down $10,000 since we activated the target. And so that still picture hasn't changed. We're pretty steady in currencies and commodities today. So we're going to focus on stocks because that's where we've seen a lot of movement. Just a quick look at precious metals before we do that. We're seeing here that gold is now recovering off that low. And again, if we look at the short-term target, we see that this is on the 60-minute chart. We're doing a lot of back testing on these targets because a lot of clients are asking us to work with them on that. And we are seeing just how your equity line increases with this. This is trading on the 60-minute chart. If you want to be more active, you can set the targets on a 10-minute chart, even a 1-minute chart. But the interesting thing is that's your equity line. You would have been long. You would take progressively more trades with each target, which is why this shading gets darker. And then as we turn the other way, we're into short trades. And we've got actually a mixed picture. We out of that short trade, we exit, and then we're back into a long trade. And there's the stop. And that's quite the key thing to watch there. So this is just really our approach of just proving that the targets work, and we're doing a lot more work in that area. But for now, let's just look at what we're seeing in the market. So gold is recovering, and silver up 6% this morning. We don't have targets yet to new highs there on silver, but we do on gold have this target pushing to a previous resistance level. So we don't yet have an indication that we are going to break to new highs. The key thing is each one of these pullbacks from a low produces a new target. So ultimately, we would hope to see a new upside target. This pullback, in terms of the general trend for gold, is actually good news because it produces the next target opportunity. So that's quite key. So the Nasdaq was down quite significantly yesterday. And if we look on that daily chart, if you zoom right into that chart, that is a bearish engulfing candle. So that is a little bit of a bearish signal there that we are seeing the Nasdaq just struggling. And remembering we couldn't get above that October high, still quite bad for the Mag 7, which of course is a huge percentage of the market. And if we look at the Mag 7 stocks, we're seeing here we've got Apple just staging a bit of recovery. Amazon were down 1.8% again, just struggling to make a new high, even though you've got the upside targets. Alphabet is the star. We've talked about this before. 2 upside targets. Really looks still very strong, even though it did come back. This is the best looking Mag 7 stock. And if we look at Microsoft, that really has been a struggle. Downside target met here, so that's quite key. And then Meta down 2%. Again, not managing to make new highs there on the daily chart. This is the medium term. And then Nvidia, everyone will know by now, if you're a regular watcher of the morning call, I have real concerns over Nvidia, primarily because we've got this downside target failing to make a new high. And if we fall below that 170 level, that is bad news for Nvidia. And if you look at the 60-minute chart, you can see upside target, downside target, upside target, downside target. So these targets have worked pretty well on the 60-minute chart as well. Tesla, they have actually bucked the trend yesterday, but we do still have downside targets, and we are below the cloud. Move into the down, move sideways, move down. And when prices are below the cloud, you really have to be concerned. I mean, take a look at RELX. This was the UK stock RELX yesterday, just plummeting because we are below the cloud. So you're not surprised to see that. And again, if we look at a 60-minute chart there, you had these targets, and that move yesterday has generated a new potential target even lower. So just be aware that just because things plummet, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a buying opportunity. The fact that we were below the cloud, we had the downside target exceeded, not good news. But if we look at some of the US stocks, first of all, just looking at the Dow, the first one was Walmart. New high, targets met, just great, and reaching that $1 trillion valuation, but the targets were given. I mean, you had these targets being given way back when. So 125 was given at 95, and we've just seen progressively more and more targets. Every pullback to a low provides a new buying thrust. Remembering these are point and figure targets drawn on a time-based chart. You can do them on TradingView, you can do them on Bloomberg, and I'm running them here on Updata. Updata running on lots of different data services. The choice is yours. I mean, we have dozens of different data services that we're compatible with, and if you're a private user, we recommend Metastock, really great data feed. You can run on your crypto feeds, you name it. So you can run, and you can see I'm running on Workspace, Bloomberg, Montel, lots of different services simultaneously. So we're seeing here the upside targets on Walmart. We look at Salesforce, completely different picture. Downside target there, breaking to new lows and activating a new downside target. So that's really quite key. That was activated a few days ago, and now target's been met, is bearish confirmation. So really quite interesting that we're seeing that. So you've really got to watch that. Cisco is another standout, breaking to a new high, upside target that was given in December. And so that's where we're heading towards the target. You really cannot ignore these buying thrusts that generate the targets. That's quite key. And if we look at some of the NASDAQ stocks, Adobe, wow, down 7%. Downside targets, with all being generated at these dots, downside targets all being given and met. So we really can't ignore that. And if we just go for the best ones, we saw Cisco there. We've got a whole list of the best ones, but looking at the downside, PayPal down 20% yesterday. That's exceeded the target, but bearish below the cloud with the downside targets in train. And we've just seen Intuit, another one, really badly hit yesterday. Downside targets given there and met. So you've got to really be just checking, and you'll notice how these really bad performances are frequently off the targets. And so it's not all bad. You've just got to be really particular about what you're looking at. So Boeing, a stock that's been in the news a lot over recent years, you'd think was a bad looking stock, but is staging a recovery with upside targets being met. Caterpillar, again, new upside target. So you can find these rising stocks, but the interesting thing is the Mag 7 is predominantly driving the market lower. Goldman Sachs did pull back yesterday, but the targets are there. And again, if you want to go to the short term, you can just go to the short term chart. You can see we're going into a bit of a consolidation phase. You can decide whether you want to live with this potential downside whilst being longer term for the upside. That's what it's all about. If we look at Walmart, coming back to Walmart, what's happening on the 60-minute chart, we can see here we're just waiting to see if we activate a new upside target, and that is significantly higher. We need a pullback and then a move higher to activate that thrust that will then give the new target. So really quite key, but not all stocks are looking great, and this is the key thing is you've got to make sure you're in the ones that look good and not in the ones that look bad. I mean, if I look at Nike, for example, just here we're seeing potential for a recovery, but it is still below the cloud. We still do have these downside targets in train. Even though we have an upside target, the fact is we've got resistance there. You'd favor these downside targets. Do watch the resources. I've got, if you're taking a trial of the targets on Bloomberg or on TradingView, we have lots of resources to look at. But the key thing is it's a real mixed picture for stocks. You've got to make sure that you're in the stocks that are looking better rather than worse. And you won't always have a target. So here we see JP Morgan just slowing down a bit below the above the cloud, but no clear target, which is why then you go to the 60-minute and you can see now a bit of a recovery going on. And so that gives you a view shorter term. You've just got to look at the targets. Anyway, that's for charts today. For today, hopefully you'll sign up. Do tell your friends. Please recommend it. The more people that watch it, the more I do it. But I'll do it every day. And until tomorrow, happy charting. Bye for now.